A long time ago, in a quiet village near the mountains, there lived a young boy named Aryan. He was 12 years old. He had bright eyes and a curious mind. Every day he asked questions. He asked about the sky, the stars, the river, and the birds. His teachers always had answers. His parents always had answers. So Aryan believed that every question in the world had an answer. One morning, Aryan went to school with a big smile. His teacher, Mr. Rajan, was writing something on the board. The class was silent. Aryan sat down and opened his notebook. He was ready to learn. Mr. Rajan turned around and looked at the students. He said, "Today, I will ask you all one question. But this question is different. This question has no answer." The class became very quiet. The students looked at each other. Aryan raised his hand quickly. He said, "Sir, every question has an answer. I believe that." Mr. Rajan smiled. He said, "Let us see." Mr. Rajan wrote on the board. The question was, "Why do we exist?" The class was silent for a long time. Some students wrote in their notebooks. Some students looked at the ceiling. Some students closed their eyes and thought deeply. Aryan stared at the board. He read the question again and again. He thought hard. He thought about science. He thought about nature. He thought about his family. But no clear answer came to his mind. After some time, Mr. Rajan asked, "Who has an answer?" One student raised her hand. Her name was Priya. She said, "Sir, we exist to live our life and be happy." Mr. Rajan nodded slowly. He said, "That is a beautiful thought. But is that the complete answer? What if someone is never happy? Does that mean they have no reason to exist?" Priya went quiet. She had no reply. Another student, named Rohit, raised his hand. He said, "Sir, we exist because our parents brought us into this world." Mr. Rajan smiled again. He said, "Yes, that explains how we came here. But it does not explain why. Why did life begin at all? Why does anything exist instead of nothing?" Rohit looked confused. He sat down slowly. Aryan was thinking very hard. He wanted to give the best answer. He believed he could find it. He thought about what he had read in books. He thought about God, about science, about the universe. He raised his hand with confidence. He said, "Sir, maybe we exist to learn, to grow, and to make the world better." Mr. Rajan looked at him with kind eyes. He said, "That is a wonderful purpose, Aryan. But that tells us what we can do with our existence. It does not explain why existence itself began. It does not answer the deepest part of the question." Aryan felt something strange in his chest. It was not sadness. It was not frustration. It was something new. It was a feeling he had never felt before. It was the feeling of facing something truly unknown. Mr. Rajan walked slowly to the window. He looked outside at the trees and the open sky. He spoke in a calm voice. He said, "Philosophers have asked this question for thousands of years. Scientists have explored the deepest parts of the universe. Religious teachers have spoken about it in every culture. And yet no one has given a final, complete answer that everyone agrees on." He turned to face the class again. He continued, "Some say we exist because of God's will. Some say we exist because of a random event in the universe billions of years ago. Some say existence itself is a mystery that the human mind cannot fully understand. All of these are honest answers. But none of them is the final truth." The room felt different now. It was not like a regular class. It felt deeper. Aryan looked around at his classmates. Everyone was thinking. Everyone was quiet. The usual noise and jokes were gone. Something important was happening in that room. Mr. Rajan walked back to his desk. He sat down and looked at the students gently. He said, "I want you to understand something today. Not every question has an answer. Some questions are too big for words. Some questions are too deep for our current knowledge, and that is okay. In fact, that is beautiful." Aryan slowly raised his hand again. He asked, "Sir, then why do we ask questions that have no answers? What is the point?" Mr. Rajan smiled the biggest smile of the day. He said, "Aryan, That is perhaps the most intelligent thing you have asked today. We ask those questions because the act of asking makes us think deeper. It pushes us beyond simple answers. It makes us humble. It teaches us that the world is much bigger than we think. A person who stops asking questions stops growing. Aryan wrote that down in his notebook. He underlined it twice. At the end of class, Mr. Rajan said, "Today's homework is not to find the answer. Your homework is to sit quietly for 10 minutes tonight and simply feel the question. Do not try to answer it, just feel it." The students looked surprised. It was the strangest homework they had ever received, but somehow it felt important. That evening, Aryan sat near his window. The sky was turning orange. The birds were flying home. He closed his eyes. He thought about the question, why do we exist? He did not try to answer it. He just let the question be inside him. And something peaceful came over him. He felt small, but in a good way. He felt like he was part of something much larger than himself. He opened his eyes and looked at the stars that were just beginning to appear. He smiled. He did not have the answer, but for the first time in his life, he was completely okay with that. The next morning, Aryan walked to school with a different kind of smile. It was quieter. It was deeper. When he saw Mr. Rajan on the hallway, he said, "Sir, I did the homework." Mr. Rajan looked at him and asked, "And what did you feel?" Aryan thought for a moment. Then he said, "I felt wonder, sir, just wonder." Mr. Rajan put his hand on his shoulder and said, "Then you have understood more than most adults ever do." And from that day forward, Aryan never stopped asking questions. But he also learned to love the questions that had no answers, because those were the questions that made him truly alive.